is for real on Chiefs side. I like this offensive line.
Mahomes throws, end zone, touchdown, Kansas City. Valdez-Scantling has his first touchdown reception as a Chief.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Fun factoid for you today. Patrick Mahomes currently leads, or at least has the best odds to win the NFL's MVP award. Not a surprise to anybody around Kansas City, and something I will definitely be baiting my guy Brett Kollman here in this episode of KCSN Update to get his thoughts on Patrick Mahomes being the greatest football player to ever live. This is your daily Chiefs podcast and video from us here at KC Sports Network. I'm BJ Kissel, founder of KCSN and former Chiefs insider and reporter. Like I said, it's Wednesday, and we bring Brett Kollman on every Wednesday to get his thoughts on the key matchups and what's going on, not just with the Chiefs, but across the NFL, and tease a little bit, or at least educate us all a little bit on the upcoming matchup that the Chiefs have. And they've got a familiar team this week with the Los Angeles Chargers, or what's left of the Los Angeles Chargers, with all of the injuries that they are dealing with right now. It is a long and very distinguished injury report for the Chargers right now. They might be getting some key guys back, and we'll definitely talk about that. But before we bring on Brett, quick word, just like we always do, from our friends over at DraftKings. Help us pay some bills. All right, NFL Sundays are only getting better, and so are the incredible offers at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win, get $200 in free bets if they do. And check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, point totals, and more. My personal favorite are the anytime scores. Talk to a lot of people. They're fun. You can do across the NFL, and you always feel like you got a shot for a guy to break a big one and get in the end zone for you. So with payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is my go-to in betting on the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code KCSN and place a $5 pregame moneyline bet to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code KCSN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, let's bring on my guy, Brett Kollman. Brett, it's always a pleasure. You can find Brett on Twitter at Brett Kollman. You can find his YouTube channel, also named Brett Kollman, and you can find his work with our friend of the network, EJ Snyder, at Bootleg Football. They got a YouTube channel. They got a podcast. You're just a little bit of everywhere with your Rob Lowe NFL hat. I had to get that in there.
Yeah, I originally bought it. I bought it for the Halloween costume, but it's actually like an extraordinarily comfortable hat. So I just like wear it all the time now. Like, it just fits nicely. I like it.
It fits you well because you gotta talk about all the teams. You don't just cover one team. You kind of watch them all with what's going on. And before we get into the nitty gritty of Chiefs Chargers, what's coming up, I saw your tweet just basically telling Twitter to calm down and have very nuanced discussions, which is not the place to have nuanced discussions. And I just want you to go ahead and admit that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest football player to ever live. Better than Tua, better than Tyreek.
See, that's what's so funny is like
that was the context of the tweet for anybody listening.
Chiefs fans. Well, not so. A lot of people that listen to KCSN, I don't consider them like normal fans because they're like a more educated bunch. But God, you wander on NFL Twitter or NFL TikTok, anything like that, and you would think that there's only two players on a football field every Sunday. Like last time I checked, there's more to being a Super Bowl caliber team than having the best quarterback. And I think that, honestly, my problem with the lack of nuance around the discussion between Tua and Mahomes is like it's like we can't appreciate how great Mahomes is unless we consider everybody else garbage. And we almost like lose track of the fact that an 8.5 out of 10 is still pretty damn good, even when they're in the presence of an actual 10. And just because, there are certain things that Pat Mahomes does better in terms of being able to run around and get out of pressure, make throws on the move. There are some aspects to his game that Tua just physically can't do. There was even stuff static from the pocket. There was a throw he made this week against Jacksonville that I posted a little short on, where they did what we talked about last week, where it's like, okay, we double Kelce in man coverage and make him go beat us with everybody else. Well, he threw a gorgeous far hash slot fade 42 yards down the field with pressure in his face and punished it with MVS. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, he's got that club in his bag. Like, we know that. We know he can do that. We know he's a perfect 10. But just because Mahomes could make that throw doesn't mean that Tua isn't having a phenomenal year. Because when you look at what everything that Tua is doing, like they're sixth in the red zone. He's got a 6-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He takes care of the ball. Even though he has 120 less attempts than Mahomes, he's actually got more downfield throws, like in terms of like aggression percentage, and he's been really good at throwing the ball down the field. I would say that his ability to throw fades, at least to the boundary side, is just as good as Pat Mahomes. Obviously, the field fades doesn't quite have the same arm for it, but okay, so that's like one throw that Mahomes can consistently make more than him. It's not that big of a deal. So I don't know. I look at everything that Tua does from an accuracy perspective and a decision-making perspective, and I see a quarterback who's a very solid, like 8.5 out of 10, that you can win a lot of games with and go on a lot of deep playoff runs with. And I think that it's perfectly acceptable to acknowledge the Dolphins as an elite offense, as an elite football team, as a legitimate threat to Kansas City, while also saying that Pat Mahomes is the MVP. I think that both things can be true. And there's a lot more than just two guys that are on the football field every week, especially guys that don't line up against each other. Like, Mahomes is not out there covering Tua man-to-man. So I think that we need to focus on, when discussing these two teams, as they will inevitably probably meet in the playoffs, we should focus on the other 20 guys. What are the other matchups? How do they, pass pro versus pass rush? Schematically, how do they handle each other? How are they different? Like, you look at run schemes and personnel groupings. These are two wildly different football teams. That's the stuff we should be talking about, not is Tua as good as Pat Mahomes, because who does that help? We know he's not.
Let me make sure I heard this correctly. So you're saying once these two teams meet in the playoffs, you're telling national media to not make the storyline about Tyreek Hill, Tua, and Patrick Mahomes.
That's the thing.
Dolphins and Chiefs. The Dolphins and Chiefs meet. You don't want that to be the conversation. And to go back to what you said, I completely agree with you. I don't like the fact that, and I think all fan bases are like this, and obviously we see it more, and I see it more because I'm around Chiefs fans. I follow Chiefs fans. That if somebody nationally gets up, and there are people that bait intentionally, and they bait Chiefs Kingdom because they will give you engagement. If you stand on a national platform and you say Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL, or if you rank your top 5 quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes wasn't on any of the lists, which was egregious, which is just, they're baiting you for engagement. And guess what? You give it to them every single time, and you engage with it. You do those things, and then it tells all the social media people to keep doing this stuff, and you wonder why it keeps happening.
Do it. I'm asking them not to take the bait because it's low-hanging fruit, and we're better than that.
Yeah, it is cool to now. Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback, and it is okay to say that. It is okay for people in Buffalo to say, I'd rather have Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. That's our guy. I completely understand that. My point, and why I wanted to talk about this with you, is anybody who's making the comparison of those two players, Tyreek Hill is the most explosive player to ever play in the NFL.
Yeah,
like that, it's done. Like, that's what it is. The fact that Mahomes is doing what he's doing and you remove him, it's not comparable. Like, and you're not making that point, but that's it for me. If you needed any more proof outside of Kansas City and all the doubt and all that stuff, he took away the most explosive player, and he leads the NFL in yards. He leads in touchdowns. He's still on pace to break every record. They have the highest scoring offense in the league. And yes, it's not just because of Mahomes. It helps that he has Andy Reid. If Patrick Mahomes went to another team, he'd still be a very good quarterback. Do I think he'd be setting the league on fire and breaking every pace record through 75 career games? Honestly, no, I don't. I think Andy Reid and the coaching staff gets a whole hell of, they should get a lot more credit for bringing Mahomes along to being the position that he is right now. But yes, there is nuance. as long as it ends with Patrick Mahomes, the greatest player ever, I don't think you're going to get a lot of upset Chiefs fans talking about your content.
I will say that he is my pick for MVP because I think the Titans game is a great example of like pass pro ain't there and he's having to do a lot like by himself that Tua hasn't had to do. Like you look at even just, I actually pulled up the numbers. You look at total pass attempts where a quarterback is moved off their spot and they're under pressure. Mahomes is at 90 already. Tua's at 25. Like there's been a lot of throws within the Miami offense that are off play action, or it's quick game, or it's bootlegs, stuff that hasn't exposed him to as many life-threatening situations as the Chiefs have done to Mahomes. And so I would say that, yeah, Mahomes has been more valuable because they have put him into so many life-threatening situations and they're still winning and winning convincingly. But I just don't feel comfortable faulting Tua for that. And I'll give an example. Because I didn't fault Mahomes when he had Tyreek and Kelce and they were scheming up all this stuff at the goal line to manufacture touchdowns. I didn't fault Mahomes for that. I didn't fault Mahomes for having Reed scheme things up and Tyreek take a slant 80 yards and Kelce making stuff up as he went along and being like if I can't fault Mahomes for being supported by that cast from 2018 to 2021, I don't think I can fault Tua for it.
Yeah.
I feel like a massive hypocrite.
It's amazing how with the NFL, if you just wait long enough, your analysis, it'll always come back around. It happened with Geno Smith. Sorry, my mic cut out right there, but I'm saying like you wait long enough, the NFL analysis comes back around. I was a big Geno fan, and I have called myself out for this multiple times so far this year, and going into this year with all of the hype around Justin Herbert, that I was very much in that draft, that camp of I did not want Tua in the division. I did not care if Justin Herbert went to the Chargers, like keep Tua away from the Chargers. And then when it worked out the way that it did, I'm like, I'm okay with this. And then Herbert starts off hot. And so like, I was a Tua fan, and don't get me wrong. Like I'm going to like the tweets that I see where Chiefs fans are like making fun of like Tyreek as 9 yards of separation. And then he's catching a 50-50 contested ball because it's a little underthrown. Yeah. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to hit the like button, but I will say this about Tua. Outside of the Chiefs, because we take this stuff personally, and all of this shit that was being talked this offseason about, oh, they're not going to win the division. They're going to finish last in the division. These are national media people. These aren't just Twitter trolls that are saying this that we're reacting to. This stuff was everywhere after the Tyreek trade and what happened in the division and all that. That the Chiefs as a whole and all the slander that they were getting this offseason, the only one that I can really remember, or that I could tell you right now had the same amount of slander was Tua. And so, like, I completely get he has every right to pound his chest and be like, you were talking so much trash. And that way they're kind of connected. Can you remember, who else is in that conversation of had so much shit being talked on them and playing pretty well? Maybe the Vikings because of the season they're having, like Kirk Cousins, maybe.
Yeah.
Another chain on, like
Jalen Hurts would be another one. Like nobody believed in Jalen Hurts. Nobody believed in Kirk. And it's funny because before this season, I picked the Vikings to win the division. I picked the Chiefs to win the division. I said the Dolphins were a playoff team and that it was absolutely going to work with Tyreek there and people shouldn't freak out. And I had Jalen Hurts as a first-round pick when he was coming out in the draft and said that he should have gone to New Orleans and been Drew Brees' heir apparent. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you're going to host our gambling show before the end of the season, Brett. Just putting all my money on whatever you have to say.
Yeah,
and maybe the Giants.
Football's a
and Dable and what he's done.
Huh?
And Dable with the Giants and what he's doing with Daniel Jones and that crew. Like, there have been, I guess there's more. There's a few more people that fit in that, but Tua got slandered hard. And so did the Chiefs. And now everybody's gonna be like, well, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like, no. Go back to like March, April when all this stuff was going down with the trades and the Tyreek and all that stuff. Like it was bad. And
my general mindset,
I'm not gonna forget that.
When it comes to KC, because this was probably like the one off season where everybody's like, I don't know about that. When it comes to KC, my general mindset was, and I took this approach when I picked them to win the division, until they prove they're dead, they're not dead. Like, as far as I'm concerned, halfway through last year when they were left for dead and they still came back and made that run, like, I won't believe that Kansas City is quote unquote out of it until they're home ever. Like they are the one franchise, like they're the new Patriots to me. You know how like every single year, the Patriots start at like 2-2 in September and everybody's like, oh, this is the year. And then they'd rip off like 8 straight wins. Like KC's the same way for me. Like I don't even care until we get to Halloween. Like,
that happened last year. She started 2-3. They started struggling and everybody wanted everyone fired. And Anthony Hitchens said, fan base kind of toxic. And then Tyrann Mathieu jumped on and then fans just attacked them. I was like, they're right. Like you are being toxic. You're telling everyone to get fired because they had a little bit of a slow start in the golden age of Chiefs football. We can't give them a little bit of grace. It's not like they went 6-11 and didn't make the playoffs. Like they started a little bit slow.
Yeah.
But, all right, we can do this all day, but we should probably get into the football stuff. Get your thoughts on Chiefs Jags before we move on and preview the Chargers game a little bit. What stood out to you in the game that the Chiefs won last week, 27-17 over the Jags?
As I alluded to earlier, Mahomes hit some throws that I think proved to some DCs around the league. Play one double on 87 at your own peril. Is he going to be able to hit those to MVS every single week? Well, I think he can make the throw. Will MVS catch it every single week? I guess we'll see. But at least putting it on tape of like, hey, I don't care if it's 3rd and 7 and I'm throwing this far hash. Like I'm that dude. I can do that. I think it helped to kind of put things in future defensive coaches' minds of like, ooh, that's a little risky for us now because
2 of the touchdowns that I did the break. So if you're listening to this, go and either listen or watch the breakdown with Matt Castle and Matt Hamilton as they break things down. I know what they're talking about because I edit all their videos with all the graphics and everything on top of them. And 2 of the plays that they're going to break down are Kelce in the red zone is being bracketed. He's being double covered. The Noah Gray touchdown was a good example of Kelce's getting all the attention. And then the Kadarius Toney one where he's hopping along the sideline. Like he was bracketed. They were selling out for Kelce. The safety's just staring him down, trying not to let him get inside. But the throws he makes, his highlight reel, like he makes some really difficult things look easy. But let's talk a little bit about Kadarius Toney because that was one of the top storylines coming out of this. And I think the most optimistic Chiefs fans are basically saying, I told you so. And everybody else is like, well, I just wanted to make sure he's got to stay healthy and all those kinds of things. But damn, it wasn't a bunch of package plays. Like he was doing a lot of different things and they found some creative ways to get him the ball.
Yeah, they gave him a carry that he ripped off for 30, which we've always known that he could do that, but it was nice to see them get that involved. Throwing jump balls into double coverage down the boundary and watching him come down with it, which we saw him do that in New York a couple times where they gave him, some red zone opportunities and he'd go up and sky over people because he does have really good ball skills. The thing that really entertained me about that clip is, I don't know if you saw it, where he adjusts his gloves while running the route. And I'm like, okay.
It's some moxie. Like, I don't know whatever word you use for it. But
So man, I don't know that I think that game it wasn't the statistical coming out party for Kadarius Toney, but it showed that it's coming. It's absolutely coming.
He had 90 yards on 6 touches. Like, are you I didn't over under with Nate Taylor.
I think we're gonna get a $150 pretty soon here.
Oh, I did an over under with Nate Taylor on our Tuesday KCSN updates, and I'd asked him right after the trade, and like, what is your over under at 300 all-purpose yards or all yards from scrimmage for Kadarius Toney right after the pick was made or right after the trade went down. And he was like, depends on health. If somebody else gets banged up, I'm going to say slightly under. And so I brought him back on. I played the clip for Nate and I was like, do you want to adjust what you said? Because technically McColl got hurt and then Toney got some more snaps, but we saw what he did when he got the ball in his hands and pretty electric, pretty fun to watch.
They didn't trade to not use him,
Yeah.
Like they need somebody with his skill set, especially when teams are going to try to just bracket Kelce and say, go beat us with everybody else. They showed they could beat them with MVS and with Toney. Yeah. And unfortunately, JuJu got hurt. Is he okay, by the way?
He's in the concussion protocol. We won't know anything until Wednesday. And even then, he's not going to talk to the media. He's going to be going through protocol. And so I don't know. Normally, they don't put a lot of, when Coach Reed will talk to the media, later on Wednesday. And I don't know if we're going to find anything out before Friday. It's just going to be a lot of we'll see. Because you don't know when you're going through those. You can't, It's not like an ankle where things are progressively getting better. You have to basically go through all these checkpoints throughout the process. The way he went down, this goes back to the Tua injury earlier, and not going to be hypocrites to it, and talked about it earlier this week as well. Player goes down, and I can't think of the medical term when they like kind of lock up when they get a concussion.
Yeah.
The fencing response. It's like an automatic, like they don't play the next week. Like no matter what they do, like I will have absolutely no issue if they just hold him out for an extra week. If they put him out there, I'm going to trust that Rick Burkholder and their staff, great with players. Rick is one of the thought leaders in the NFL athletic trainer space. And so they're well taken care of in that way. But when you see that, it's scary. And it goes way beyond football and the impact that they're making. You forget that these guys are human and going out there and playing a very violent sport. And you hate to see that stuff.
And, considering they do have Tony, I don't think they're desperate for JuJu to be on the field. So I also would like to err on the side of caution. Even if he clears protocol, I would like to see him really, get some time to come back from it.
And as banged up as the Chargers are, and they don't make decisions because of who they're playing. This has 100% to do with JuJu's health and whether he plays or not. It's not about the matchup or where they need him, but for all the rest of us, that aside, Chargers are so banged up right now. I don't know what they're going to have out on the field. If Mike Williams, Keenan Allen can't play, the rest of their team's on IR. They just lost two more guys, Covington and Agbayani went on season-ending IR. So they are very, very banged up. But I am kind of hoping he doesn't play just because the scariest thing could happen. He goes out there and takes another hit and goes down, and then it's the Tua situation again. It's like, why is he out there?
There was that semi-related, speaking of the Chargers injuries, there was a tweet from Alex Katzen, and he said, at the conclusion of Chargers-Niners, the Chargers were missing RB2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 4, TE1, TE2, LT1, RT1, defensive lineman 1, DL4, DL5, edge 1A, edge 3, CB1, kicker 1, and kicker 2, and also Justin Herbert still playing through that rib injury. So Chargers are like a third of a football team at this point. This is not the game not that you would ever risk JuJu haphazardly, but like this is not the game for the coaching staff to press for him to be on the field. Like leave him out.
And for the players, a lot of it would be up to him and how he's feeling. And a lot of the tests, they try to take it as much out of the players as they can, but we've all been around these guys. They're wired to play. They've been like, they're going to play if you give them that option. That's why you got to step in and kind of protect themselves.
That's why I'm saying, even if he clears it, like JuJu's going to want to play if he clears it. And I think they'll just say no.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a definitive answer. Even if they don't plan on playing him, they're not going to say that. Like, there's no benefit to the Chiefs coming out if they know he's not going to play and saying he's not going to play. Hey, Chargers, don't worry about game planning for him. There's no reason to give that kind of information out. But while we're talking about fun tweets that we see, I'm going to pivot here a little bit. I saw this one from Field Yates. It said tight end. It was as a graphic said tight end troubles. Said the 9 tight ends selected in the top 100 of NFL fantasy drafts. Number 1, Travis Kelce leads tight ends in targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns.
Sounds
Next,
right.
Mark Andrews out since week 8 with a shoulder injury. Kyle Pitts, 23rd among tight ends in routes run. George Kittle missed 2 games with a groin injury. Darren Waller out since week 5 on IR with a hamstring. Dalton Schultz played in just 6 games with a knee injury. TJ Hawkinson traded to the Vikings. Dallas Goedert will miss extended time with a shoulder injury. And Zach Ertz now out indefinitely with a knee injury. And Field Yates's note on it said, the lesson from this graphic may be simple. Always Travis Kelce.
Well, it's been like that for what, half a decade at this point? More than that, even. It's basically been like for the last 8 years, like just draft Kelce and profit. What I found interesting was 2 weeks ago, Cole Kmet did not have a receiving touchdown. And as of halfway through the Bears game this week, he tied Andrews for second among tight ends with 5 touchdowns. That's where we're at with the tight end market, where Cole Kmet can go from like TE 30 to TE 5 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Noah Gray's probably up there in like the tight ends ranking just because of all the plays that he's made. Jody Fortson's made some plays. Like
he might actually
spread it around a little bit.
Considering the touchdowns, I wonder if Noah Gray's close to Kyle Pitts. Maybe.
Oh God, that would have been a take going back to fantasy. I'll start to look that up. We'll get you set up for this. I know they're banged up, but again, give us the lowdown for the Chargers offensively. What do they really like to do? What stresses do they like to put on defenses, and where should the Chiefs focus or fans focus kind of be on when they're watching the game? What the Chargers like to do and how the Chiefs can slow them down.
It's heavily leaning into the quick pass game, mainly because they don't, especially with their guys out. They don't have anybody that can really stress the field at all. They might get a couple schemed up shots every now and then to DeAndre Carter. They might get him up the seam or on a deep cross. They hit him early in last week's game on a deep cross where Herbert made a ridiculous throw because he can do that. But they really don't stretch the field at all because they're not capable of stretching the field at all. They just don't really have the weapons to do it. So it's a lot of quick and intermediate throws. They'll get the running backs involved. They call endless amounts of curl routes at the sticks. I would imagine that we're going to see Spags, have his DBs sitting on a lot of stuff underneath. And really not worrying about deep balls at all. I would probably think this is going to be like a mostly either cover 3 or like a little bit of quarter half if they go into trips, but anything 2x2, I think they're going to be in cover 3 and just say, hey, just sit on this stuff because they're not going to go deep. They're really not. So, maybe if we're playing tight to it underneath and we can get some defensive line hands up, tips and balls, get some turnovers that way. Like I think it's going to be mostly zone, mostly like really playing it close. And then, hoping, Jones can either get a sack or get his hand up, generate some tip ball turnovers that way. And if you give, a couple extra possessions to this offense, they're going to cruise. So that's what I would do at least.
Yeah. And high level on the other side of the ball. For what they like to do defensively, again, banged up. We know that. What is it they like to do schematically? Where can you attack what they like to do?
They kind of have to play single high structures now. Because even before their defensive line injuries, they couldn't stop the run, but especially with Ogbonia being out for the year with a ruptured patella, Christian Covington's out for the year now, like they got nobody left. So you kind of can't stop the run with their leftover defensive line talent without bringing an extra guy down. Like they can't do what Staley wants to do, and they really haven't been able to do it all year of like, hey, we're going to start in middle field open structures and then either rotate down or play quarters and then trust our defensive line to just spill everything outside for the safeties to clean up. Like that's what they want to do, but they haven't been able to do it even since Staley arrived, and they definitely can't do it now. So I would expect a lot of cover 3, especially on early downs, which for me means, see if we can scheme up some shots there on early downs. Not that the Chiefs like run the ball a whole lot, but I do think that they might try to establish it early with Pacheco. And then if they can, Chargers can't stop the run. So if they can establish it early and then scheme up like a kill shot with MVS or with Tony or something like that against cover 3, which we know they love to do anyway, I could see that kind of being the game plan. Honestly, this might just be the game where Pacheco gets 20 carries. Like it's bound to happen eventually. This might be the one, matchup wise and game flow wise.
Yeah, and it would make sense, obviously, with JuJu and whatever's going on in that system. And you get Kadarius Toney, again, involved in the mix and doing things that can be creative ways to get him the ball without having to put a lot of stress on Mahomes or the offensive line. It's a bad situation for the Chargers, and the game got flexed. And so it's on Sunday Night Football. And so this one will be in prime time. All right, I went through, had time to find it on ESPN's fantasy tight ends list. Kyle Pitts does have more fantasy points than Noah Gray. Kyle Pitts has like 47 and Noah Gray has like 36.
It's not that far off.
Excuse me, 26.
Okay.
26 to Noah Gray's basically averaging 3 fantasy points a game, and Kyle Pitts is averaging 4.3. So not too far, but
not too far. Not too far.
Kyle Pitts is down there.
They're both down
way
there.
Down there.
That's why
Noah Gray down there with Foster Moreau, Jelani Woods, Darren Waller, although he's been banged up, OJ Howard.
Oh God.
Oof.
That's just horrific.
It's a tough place to invest in your fantasy team. All right, Brett, to wrap this one up, can we get some expectations? What do you think's going to happen on Sunday night when the Chiefs travel out west in LA to take on the Chargers?
If this was full strength on full strength, I think it would have been a epic, titanic showdown. Unfortunately, that is not the case for either team, but especially mostly for the Chargers. And so I fully expect the Chiefs to, I don't even know what the line is, but it's probably pretty generous towards KC. I would fully expect KC to win this game. And if the line is anything over like 4.5,
6.5.
Ooh, that's tough. Oh God.
Over under is 50.
50 points total? I'd probably go under on the total, but I'd take the Chargers to cover, if that makes sense. Because I don't know. I feel like the defense and the run game for the Chiefs, it's going to feel like a very non-Chiefs game, because I think it's going to be very like run game and defense oriented. Not because they can't get the pass game going, but I just don't think they're going to have to. And so I think it's going to be Pacheco. Clyde didn't get any carries last game, which was interesting to me. I'm curious to see if maybe he gets more involved in the run game for this one, especially against this run defense. But I kind of feel like 20+ carries here in the run game. You know, we be efficient with the pass game. We take a couple shots here and there, get in the red zone, handle business, play defense, and then get on the plane and go home. That's kind of how I feel this game goes. They could blow them out potentially, but I don't necessarily think they're going to need to. I think they're going to control the game so much that, you know, maybe like 9 possessions per team, which is fairly low, and the Chiefs win by 6. That seems fair to me.
Yeah. Could be a get-right game for the Chiefs offense. And I don't know how many times I've sat here and covering the Chiefs and covering Andy Reid for so many years, be like, they're going to get the running game going this week, and it just doesn't ever happen.
If you can't get the run game going against the Chargers, this is the team to do. If you can't get against the team, like, you're not going to.
And that's why for this one, it's like they're so banged up that maybe you just focus on the offensive line this week. And Eric Bieniemy talked about a couple weeks ago, is the best way to get better at rushing the ball is to run the damn ball, like actually practice and go out there and do it. Maybe this is the opportunity. Maybe those guys up front can kind of lick their chops and be like, you know what? A lot of people have been saying a lot of things about the Chiefs offensive line this year, and this will be a focus on them to go out and get after people that they should absolutely take care of business up front. It'd be a great opportunity for, like you said, Isaiah Pacheco to get some carries and get that running game going. All right, Brett, before we let you go, what are you working on now? What can Chiefs fans expect to find on your channel, the Bootleg channel? What do you got to promote?
So I'm working on a Tua film room right now. I promise I won't be talking about the Chiefs much in it, but it'll be glowingly positive for both teams, because I feel like they're on a collision course right now, which as a neutral fan is great for me. I fully expect there to be a playoff game in Kansas City with the Dolphins visiting. You know, whether it's in the divisional round or the AFC Championship game, I guess we'll find out. But that's kind of the matchup right now. So I'm going to talk about Tua and what he's doing well. You know, a check-in on Tyreek and his usage. And, you know, I really do hope we get to see that game, because unfortunately we're not going to get it during the regular season. But that's the one I want in January, because I think it's the two, or at least right now, the two best teams in the conference.
Yeah, the NFL would love to see that matchup and to see that game. And I think there's a lot of players on both teams that would love to see that matchup and have those.
You know, Tyreek would. Tyreek coming back.
Either them or the Titans. You know, it's going to be, I'd rather face Miami than I'm tired of seeing Mike Vrabel. Just give me Tyreek. Give me another situation. I don't want you to sit through another Titans Chiefs slugfest.
If you want to know how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is, you look at their point differential and then you look at their record, like it's absolutely insane. Like the Raiders have a better point differential than the Chargers, but the Chargers are like 5-4 and the Raiders are 2-7, and the Titans, their point differential is horrible because they got blown out by the Bills and they're 6-3. Like that is such a well-coached team. They are winning games that they honestly shouldn't be because of Mike Vrabel. So yeah, if I was the Chiefs, I wouldn't want to see them either because somehow, some way, they always make life hard for you.
Yeah, they win. Especially in like the playoffs. Like I'm gonna trust Mahomes. I just don't want to see it. I know what that's gonna look like, and I don't want that kind of game. Yeah. So anyway, appreciate you, Brett, as always, for stopping by on this Wednesday episode of KCSN Update. We appreciate everybody for hanging out. Got a lot of great content coming for you from KC Sports Network, getting ready for that game on Sunday night. And there's a lot of places you can get your Chiefs content. We appreciate you stopping here. It feel like we offer the best collective perspective on the Kansas City Chiefs with former players, insiders, analysts, different people, different perspectives, all that stuff. Love what we got going on here. Love that you guys are supporting what we have going on. Let us know if you think it could be better in the comment section of YouTube, or shoot us an email, hit us up on social, let us know what you think. But we appreciate you for hanging out. We'll see y'all next time.